This may sound a little dorky, but I like to think of fitness as a health intervention. Now, that'd be a really terrible thing to say to somebody when they first come in, like, hey, are you here for your health intervention? But I think when you join a gym, you hire a coach, you follow a program, you're hoping that it won't just make your muscles bigger or make your lungs work better, but it will improve your overall health, right? Now, I think as individuals, we're looking for the same thing. What's a way that we could improve this? What's the right workout? What's the right measurement? What's the right methodology? And so it's really fun to tell people about the new wearable that we got, about the new program that we're following, or maybe even the individual, the so-called expert who's saying the things about our fitness or our health that really make a lot of sense to us. So if you put all that together, you could say that a lot of the fitness industry is about hunting. Now, from a business angle, it's very vogue to say things like, you've got to niche down, right? Or, hey, what's the signal you're going to put out through the noise? What are your three uniques? What's your KPIs? All of these are just fancy ways of saying, what's the technique that you're going to rely on to differentiate yourself? And just recently, I came upon something that I think is really interesting. Now, let's go to a different industry. Let's talk psychotherapy. This same conversation that I just gave you already happened, but it was like 100 years ago. In 1936, there's a guy named Saul Rosenweig, I think it's pronounced, that wrote a paper, and he looked at all these wildly different therapy modalities, and he said, you know what? I did a study, I did some research, and they pretty much all produced the same outcome. He called it the dodo bird verdict. This is after the bird in Alice in Wonderland, who declares after this little foot race that everyone has won and all must have prizes. So he was basically implying that, like, hey, all of these methodologies get a prize. Now, much, much later in 92, there was a researcher named Michael Lambert from Brigham Young University who put some numbers to it. He said that roughly 40% of the outcomes come from extra therapeutic factors, which is clinical speak for everything that's happening in the rest of your life. So think sleep, stress, work, the people who love you. 30% comes from relationships that the client has with the practitioner. 15% comes from the amount of expectancy or hope from the client that that type of therapy will work. And the last 15%, are you ready for this? The last 15% is whatever technique they decided to use. 15%. Now, in this industry, we're talking the worst mood disorders, the hardest trauma to recover from, substance abuse. And so my question for you is, do you think that same framework could be said for an industry where the goal is wanting to lose 30 pounds? So if it works in a community like that, I think it could probably work for ours too. Now, since 92, there have been studies to show that certain techniques do matter, and I couldn't agree more. In fitness, I'm very biased to a specific blend of aerobic work plus full body resistance training and the occasional sprinkling of something that's higher in intensity. And so I think there are real differences between modalities, but if this is a fight that we're picking and we're talking Lord of the Rings, I envision it's like two little hobbits fighting against adults. The bigger fight is like the other 85%, which is the part that nobody sells. And I don't think that from a business standpoint, we sell this because it doesn't scale very well. Now, I've seen this over and over again from 20 years of being involved in this industry. You can take two members, and let's just for giggles say that they're identical twins, and they have the same exact goals too, and they go through the same program. They will have different results. Now, that difference in results is not the 15% fault. It's not what we did on the gym floor. It's not how well is the program executed, even though that's what most people want to complain about. It's all about the 85%. So think about this for yourself. Think about the last time that you actually changed, and it wasn't forced. It was a voluntary change that you put yourself through. I would bet money that the technique that you used or that you were exposed to was helpful, but it's not the thing looking back that you said, man, this was everything. Think about the conditions. Was there somebody that went out of their way to pay attention to you, to ask you questions, to feel like they cared? Did you walk in with a certain degree of hope, dare I say faith, that what you were entering in would really be effective? And was the rest of your life set up to support the change, or was it fighting against it? That's the 85%. Now, the reason fitness sells us a method instead of any of that is simple. Methodology scales. It's reduced down to a framework. Trust, however, doesn't scale very well. Hope is really hard to package. The relationship a client has with their coach doesn't compress into a service tier, which is why the marketing has to focus on the smallest variable. There's an old guy, dead for a long time, named William Osler, who basically invented modern medicine. And he says something that I think about a lot. He says it's much more important to know what sort of patient has a disease than what sort of disease a patient has. So take that quote, change client for patient, change technique for illness, and you're right back in 2026, not 1888 or whenever he said it. So if you're a coach watching this, I got an easy rebellion for you. Don't AI the relationship in front of you. Don't podcast parrot whatever's popular this week and tell somebody what they should be doing. And look, if you really want to be a rebel, just be encouraging. Just be a source of encouragement, riding shotgun with somebody. That thing right there, the whole industry is too busy selling techniques to do that. And if you're watching this and you're not coaching anyone besides yourself, just remember 15% is great. 15% absolutely matters. I love technique. I'm a technique guy. But we don't have to be in the caucus race with the dodo bird handing out prizes. Because look, whether you're 6 or 66, no one wants to be called a dodo bird.